out there. OMD is on the air. It's free agent breakdown tonight. Players sign their deal, to their fans appeal. But did the team really get it right? OMD winds up strong, whether it's right or wrong, to say what all went down. So grip your stick real tight, or prepare to fight. It's the free agent breakdown.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is July 1st. Happy Canada Day to everybody. It's also one of the biggest days of the year in the hockey world. Free agency starts today. I am OMD, joined alongside by Chris Parrish, the host of the Chris Parrish podcast, member of the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. How are we doing today, my friend?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I am doing quite well. We've got a lot to cover, and one of the big things, we've seen a lot of players taking team-friendly deals this year instead of really breaking the bank.
Yeah.
And let's start right at the top. The Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers.
Yeah. I think the obvious ones, we had a feeling Sam Bennett was going to stay. He did say he was going to stay. He did the whole 8 more years, mother, you know what? And then I don't think anybody expected Ekblad to leave. But I think to me the surprising one is getting Marchand on that cap hit of just over $5 million and bringing back everyone. And now they have, 11 forwards, 3 defensemen signed all the way to 2030. And this is the last year of the big contract for Bobrovsky. So if they're able to extend him at a lower cap hit, they're set for a while.
Yeah. I mean, this is huge. I mean, I was fully expecting, to be honest, I had Ekblad going to free agency over Marchand. But it was in that, 60-40 toss-up range, which one's going, which one's staying. But the fact is that Florida swung big. I know you and I are not big fans of Bill Zito, but what a shrewd general manager he is, and all the credit to him.
Yeah, I mean, he said he was going to bring everyone back. He said he was certain, and he did just that. You can't hate the confidence when you get it done. That just is something that you have to commend the guy about, and you have to respect. That's why people go there. That's why people want to go there. Also, breaking news, by the way, Brandon Tanev just signed with Utah Mammoths at 3 years, $2.5 million on an AAV. Oh. But that's a thing. Plus, 2-time back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, Florida Panthers. People know you can win there. They've proven it. They've been in the Stanley Cup now 3 years in a row. Keeping the same group. How do you go wrong when there's a recipe of success?
Right? You really can't. I mean, this was huge. And, I mean, yes, we saw that drop-off in Tampa after their 3rd consecutive trip, but they also elected not to keep their captain in Steven Stamkos. They let him go to free agency. They made a move to bring in a Jake Gensel. We know that Vasilevsky really wasn't himself last year either, but neither was the team in front of him.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that I haven't heard Tampa Bay a little bit more. But when you see kind of what they have kind of in their pipeline, they have a lot of those pieces there. When you talk about how maybe guys just had an off year, you'll wonder, okay, if they have a bounce back year, what is this team going to be? You still have Kucherov. You're still going to get those goals. Kucherov is still giving you 70 assists a year.
Yeah.
So I think finding a good little scorer, maybe they go and grab an Olofsson, who's on the board still. He's someone that could give you some scoring a little bit of scoring in your bottom six. Maybe they look
Right.
that way.
Yeah, you've got Braden Point, you've got Jake Gensel, you've got Nikita Kucherov, you do have Vasilevsky on the back end. Their defense is really, I think, where they struggle.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of expected, or maybe they go somewhere. If a guy like Cody Ceci ends up being a cheaper option, do they go that way just to kind of give themselves a steady third pairing defenseman? You have to wonder. I thought if they had the money, I figured they would have been shooting hard for Gavrikov. But I think we all knew kind of going in that he was absolutely lasered to go to the Rangers. We've heard nothing but the Rangers. So
Right.
that's something that I'd be very curious about. But we look at 40-year-old Brett Burns. Is he a cheap option for a 1-year deal in Tampa Bay?
I don't think he couldn't be. I think that would be a fantastic signing and a brilliant move for them. But you also have to figure in the other teams in that division. You've got Bowen Byram, who is a restricted free agent out of Buffalo, and he doesn't want to be there.
Not a lot of people want to be in Buffalo right now.
So do you swing a deal and then sign him, or do you offer sheet him?
Yeah, and it sounds like an offer sheet is something there. It'll be very intriguing to see who kind of steps up and do that. Also, by the way, Sammy Blais signing a 1-year $775,000 deal with the Montreal Canadiens, just out there now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like. An offer sheet's a big deal. You have to have that draft capita. So it all depends. Does that sacrifice make sense? Because at the end of the day, Buffalo can match it. They have that 7 days. They could match it. They can be like, hey, look, he might not be offering a contract with us. So we'll let somebody else do that work. And then we'll just do the easy match. And they do one of these at the end because they kept their guy and they didn't have to do half the work.
Actually, I was just reading on that. Apparently, like if they match that offer sheet, if that's what comes through, they are then not able to trade him, and they walk him right to free agency, which I think doesn't suit either the player or the team in that situation. If he's not happy and not wanting to be there, not playing to the best of his ability.
What? Now, is the trade for the entire of the career, or is it a year? Because
no, they wouldn't be able to trade him for the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, you play 1 year with the team, even if it's like a multi-year deal. I would say maybe play 1 year with them and then move them, and then maybe you're able to get something out of that.
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, that's a hard one because offer sheets are really tricky. I don't think anybody would have thought, yes. I mean, I'm talking from experience of a team that got absolutely nipped in the behind last year with both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway getting offer sheeted. So it sucks on either side, but I also have been on the, hey, we got Dustin Penner off an offer sheet. So can't really complain. Been on both sides of the fence on that one.
Right.
From a fan standpoint.
Another team who really seems to have hit massive home runs this offseason is the Montreal Canadiens. This started a week ago at the draft.
Yeah. And from all accounts, a lot of people were impressed with their draft. And it's hard to say because I think I'm no scout. I know you're no scout. We talked a little bit about the draft a few weeks ago. But when you hear everybody who knows hockey talk and praise about Montreal and their draft, and then they go out and they make the moves that they're making, you have to be excited if you're a Canadiens fan. Not to mention, you still have that 10.5 LTIR with Carey Price there. So if you want to go big league shopping, make a big trade, go after a Nicholas Ehlers or whoever is still out there, you still have the money to do so.
Yeah, I mean, that Noah Dobson deal, I mean, Montreal has a very, very scary defense this coming year.
Yeah, and if we're just looking at Puckpedia right now, and that's kind of where I am at, we are looking at Montreal just a little over the cap right now at over 4.16. But then when you factor in the 10.5 that you say from Carey Price, you're looking at just under or just over 6 million right there, right?
Yeah.
And then we all know that teams can be 10% over the cap until right before the season where they have to be cap compliant. So you have that window still with them. So you wonder if there's still a deal out there. Now I know they lost Christian Dvorak. He signed with the Flyers earlier today, which that one might hurt a little bit. He is a very versatile top 9 player.
He is, but they also did make a trade today with St. Louis.
They did.
In trading prospect Logan Mailloux to St. Louis for Zach Bolduc, who is, again, a middle 6 forward who had 19 goals last season.
Yeah, definitely a late bloomer, Zach Bolduc is. But better late than never, right? He's always been serviceable, but it seems like he's really found who he is the last couple of years. And that might be a very like underground payoff move that they did. And I think that's one that people are going to be talking about. Like, yeah, I'm very happy they made that trade because look at what he's doing for our team right now.
Yes. Boston. This is a team that
they had a lot of cap space.
They did. They took a drastic step back last year. And I mean, part of it can be, I guess, blamed on the fact that, Krejci retired, Savard retired. You really had Marchand and Pasternak, and then you moved on from Marchand, dealing him to Florida for a first-round pick. Yes, you picked up Fraser Minton from Toronto and a first-rounder in moving defenseman Brandon Carlo. They've signed Tanner Jeannot this afternoon, but they also acquired Victor Arvidsson from the Edmonton Oilers for a 4th-round pick, I believe. It was
a 5th-round pick in 2027. That was definitely a capped up. And I think he has 2 more years on his deal. I believe his deal was 3 years for 4.5, I believe it was, per year. So they've definitely grouped their wingers well. I still think that there's a centerman away still of being done, and that's why I'm looking at Michael Granlund as being that potential fit. Maybe even a Mangiapane as well. Those are 2 options that I see that they could be looking at. But if they want to go low end, you got Holmberg, you got Fotska. Those are options that they could have too. But I still think that they're looking at a center.
And I think really the guy that potentially could fill that mold again could be a Jack Roslovic.
Yeah, and he's still out there. Now, you could always go to the trade market as well. I know there was rumors that the Oilers were also looking at moving Adam Henrique. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Stan Bowman did say the team is done clearing cap room.
Okay.
But I wonder if he is going to acquire cap room. That is still something that I'm wondering. There is news that there could be a potential of Oilers still grabbing a goalie as of today.
Yes, and I mean, that is something that the Oilers desperately need. I know you've got that tandem in Skinner and Pickard making under $3 million between the 2 of them. But as you know, is Skinner truly that playoff performer? He had one really good year in the playoffs and struggled this year.
To me, I still think there's a lot more questions about him and about his game. To me, it's not just, is he a good goalie? To me, is he a consistent goalie? And that's something that I, as a fan, I struggle with because I don't know if he's the answer. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a problem, but maybe he's a better backup than he is a number one. I don't know. But what I do like is the fact that we're going to see some changes with the Oilers. They did fire goaltending coach Schwartz, right?
Yes.
Now, there's been a lot of pushback in the organization. Schwartz is a very popular person within the team. So there's pushback that could go either way. This could be like an R-Truth thing in WWE. You let him go and then bring him back. I don't know. But all I do know, if Schwartz is out and somebody else comes in, I wonder if that helps him. We've seen in the past goalies say the importance of a goalie coach goes a long way. I believe Devin Dubnyk is very famous for quoting that as soon as he got a goalie coach, and I think it was Sean Burke who helped him out, his game really took it to the next level, and that's where he had some of his best years. So I think you owe it to him to give him that opportunity because he's only had Schwartz as a goalie coach. So let's see if a new set of eyes, a new person helping him out really does anything. But I still think if there's an option to improve what you have, you do so, because I will say this. It's very scary to think of this stat. The Edmonton Oilers in the last 2 years were 3 wins away from 2 Stanley Cups with a goaltending network of under $4 million.
Right.
It's pretty crazy if you ask me.
It is. And I mean, like, again, they'll credit to Florida because they really shut down McDavid and Draisaitl in the playoffs.
And look at what they have. They have Sergei Bobrovsky, a guy who had resurgence in Florida, especially when at the beginning of that contract, a lot of people were questioning if he was ever going to live up to it. He now has 2 Stanley Cups under his belt and 3 Stanley Cup finals. I think he has played out that contract just fair, and it shows when you have a bona fide number one goalie like him, what you're capable of doing, and I think that goes a long way. Now, was there one in the free agency today? No. Jake Allen was not him.
No.
He did re-sign with the Devils. I believe it was 5 years for $9 million, which is under
$1.8 million a year.
Just over, yeah. So very, very easy contract. We also saw Thatcher Demko re-up in Vancouver, which makes me wonder if Shilos is coming out of Vancouver.
Right. So we're on to that. We've seen Dan Vladar from Calgary sign with Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Georgiev, who has always been better suited to that backup role as he had with the Rangers, with both behind Lundqvist and Shesterkin, went to Colorado, had a good run with them, but then really struggled this year, and they shipped him to San Jose.
Yeah.
Colorado retooled their goaltending mid-season, and even San Jose didn't want to bring Georgiev back. Do you take that chance on him on a two-way deal?
It wasn't actually San Jose who didn't want Georgiev back. It was Georgiev himself saying he was not going to sign back with San Jose.
Okay.
And I don't know if he's going to sign a two-way deal. I think you really have to wait another week or two to see what opens up and what opportunities start closing in before you think about that. I think you take a two-way deal just to get a contract. But I do think that there's opportunity. I do think there's a lot of teams looking for a balanced 1-2. I look at Boston as another team that could be looking at that player who could be looking at maybe grabbing that help for Swayman. So Could it be them? Could we also be looking at maybe a Calgary looking to get somebody just to help their young goalie in Wolf? So I don't know. Like it's one of those things where I think there's going to be a fit somewhere. Somebody's always going to want a serviceable backup in the game. Is he an upgrade from Calvin Pickard? I think that's something the Oilers have to look at.
Right. And I was going to suggest another team because we did see Montreal deal Caden Primo. Would he be an ideal backup to go there and play behind Montembeault?
Again, you have to always look at the possibilities, and I think that that's up there. And that because of that, if you are giving me those options of, hey, there's an opening here, I think that goes closer of saying, why do a two-way deal when you obviously have an opportunity there to be a backup? Now, for both the player and the team, there has to be some sort of an agreement made. But you can never say never because, again, everybody needs two goalies to start a game.
You do. You do. And I mean, this is going to be the last year as we are into the free agent frenzy now, of really seeing these not necessarily overblown contracts, but these overpayments and these 8-year deals, or 7 now and then 6 if you're signing with a new team starting next year.
Yeah. So just to kind of break that down, as of right now, if you want to extend your extend with the team that you already are on, you could extend to 8 years. But if you wait till July 1, it's only 7 years. The case is Brock Besser. Brock Besser extended and re-signed with the Vancouver Canucks, but it was for 7 years. And the reason why is because he waited till after the start of free agency to sign back with Vancouver. Had he done that before, he could have got an 8th year. And this would have been the last time. Starting next year, even if you did that before free agency, it's a 7-year max. On July 1, the max you can sign with is 6.
Yes. Let's look at another team that neither of us are really fans of. And this is not, I'm not saying this out of bitterness for what they did yesterday, but the Vegas Golden Knights.
I mean, when we talk about having the balls to do the big moves, Vegas Golden Knights is the top of the list, right?
Yeah.
The big sign and trade where they shipped Nicholas Waugh to Toronto for Mitch Marner and then signed him to an 8-year, $12 million on average deal. But that wasn't it. They trade Nick Hague to Nashville for Lauzon and Sissons.
Yep.
And they're already in discussion of extending Jack Eichel, who I'm going to say, if Mark Stone is out, which I hear he might not play next year.
Oh, really?
But you have to wonder if Mark Stone is ever out, is Jack Eichel the new captain of the Vegas Golden Knights?
I don't see how he isn't, because we also know that Vegas has lost Alec Pietrangelo. Likely his career is done.
They did re-sign Dylan Coughlin today.
Okay.
So that is somebody to help their back end. So it's yeah, I mean, you have to wonder if they're a defenseman short, does Klingberg make sense or CC makes sense in Vegas on a 1-year deal?
I think CC probably makes more sense. And again, like, this is something that, you and I have both had the experience with Klingberg, and that is his health.
And I had no issue with Klingberg this year. Yeah, he had injuries, but injuries are so hard to prevent. It seems like everybody at one point on the Oilers this year was hurt. Right. So I don't really do. He did have a great playoff, so I didn't really think anything like that. You also wondered because you have Grzelcyk, that left defenseman that used to be out of Boston. Is he somebody that available? Is that an option for Vegas?
Right. We know that Vegas is looking to likely move out William Karlsson and clear up that little bit of cap space. But at that point, are you moving him just to be able to afford these other players? The Sissons, the Lauzons.
Would you move him straight out for a defenseman of similar cap hit?
I would consider it.
I'm looking at Karlsson for Karlsson.
Okay.
If you're Vegas, do you consider that?
Again,
if you're Pittsburgh, do you consider that?
We know that Pittsburgh has already stated they will eat salary to move Karlsson.
But you're bringing in, I believe, the same amount. both sides?
Carlson is, I believe, around 5 to 8 for Vegas. I can't remember.
I'm gonna pull all this up, but I mean, speak more about the Carlson idea, though. Right now we have Carlson at 5.9, and then if I go to Pittsburgh, we are looking at Eric Carlson at 10. So you are looking at a 4.1 difference there. So if you were to make that trade, would you ask Pittsburgh to take 4.1? And if you're Vegas, throw in a prospect, throw in a pick.
I think, again, I think this is something you really, really have to look at. Carlson will help solidify them down the middle because behind Crosby, behind Malkin, what do you have?
Yeah. And we do know that this is the last year with Malkin in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Pittsburgh has stated they will not offer Malkin a new contract. So whether or not this is Malkin's last year in the NHL or just his last year in Pittsburgh, it's going to be very intriguing to see.
See, because from everything I've heard, they have stated no decision has been made on what they do with Malkin yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I read a thing a few weeks ago, which they said that they do not plan on offering Malkin a new contract this offseason.
And I mean, I can understand it. I mean, yes, you've got Malkin and Crosby getting up there in age. And I got to wonder, does Malkin make sense to go to a team like Washington, who have that history with Pittsburgh, and then he gets the chance to play with his countryman, his friend, and the greatest goal scorer of all time?
If the money works, I think maybe. But at the same time, does Washington, if Pittsburgh is trying to go younger from that, is Washington also in that mindset? Because you have Malkin, you have Crosby, and they get some grace with the team because of what they've done and what they've done for the team, the cups that they brought in. Now, at this age of Alexander Ovechkin, he has done the same thing with Washington, right? Yeah. But would you really ask for like a 3-year deal with Malkin in Washington? I don't think I would.
No, and I do believe, like, my personal opinion, we know that Ovi wants to go and finish his career back home in Russia. This, I believe, is Ovechkin's last season on his contract.
Yeah, the only way I would see Ovechkin staying is that if he has another pretty solid goal scoring year and the opportunity of 1,000 goals is there, I think he stays and tries for it. He's also a guy that when he is very much locked in to a goal, he sees it through.
Yes.
So to be the only person in history to have 1,000 goals, I don't know if anybody's ever going to break that. So it'd be, man, if they don't retire you and make a statue of you league wide after that, I don't know what else you have to do.
Right. I think that you do see eventually the number 8 take that same position as the number 99 and get retired league wide.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the number won't be league wide because I still don't think he is Gretzky good. Gretzky did more than just score goals. He wasn't even a goal scorer, really. But no, I think there has to be something monumental done for Alexander Ovechkin. No, I don't know if maybe you go league-wide number retirement, but you never know. Crazier things have happened.
Right. Well, I mean, Gretzky is the only player to have his number retired league-wide. So
yeah,
to be that second guy, I could honestly, truly see it. I mean, I think that a Lemieux should have had that number retired league-wide? Absolutely.
You also look at like guys like Gordie Howe. You think of guys like maybe Bobby Orr. You think of other players in the past. Like, could they have been that? Like,
Right.
it's hard. Yarmer Jaeger, number 2 in
Yeah.
points. Like, it's and he still wants to play. Like, it's crazy. But getting back on the free agency aspect of what we're talking about, what team that we haven't talked about has truly stood out for you? Whether it's I can't believe the moves they're making, or what about the moves they're not making? I say because teams like Winnipeg, I'm kind of looking at you of be like, you are very close of getting over that hump. I don't know if making the Jonathan Toews decision official today really should have been the only thing you've done. But as of right now, it seems like it is.
Right. The one team that really stands out to me for really having done very little, Detroit.
Okay.
Yes, you went out, you made that trade, sending Peter Mrazek to Anaheim along with whatever for John Gibson. But you still haven't gotten anybody to complement Seider, Larkin. What do you do if you are Detroit?
I mean, they did bring back Patrick Kane, so that's something that they do have. I wonder if this is where you maybe go after Nicholas Ehlers. Do you look at maybe a Mason Appleton to kind of help you down the middle? Do you look at a Jeff Skinner? Do you look at a Dadonov out there? These are all guys that are still available.
Right. And I know I've heard, because Jeff Skinner makes a lot of sense. I believe he is a Michigan boy, is he not?
Jeff Skinner? No, he's Canadian.
Oh, okay. I know I've heard the Detroit Red Wings linked to Max Pacioretty as well, who is going to be that serviceable third-line player that can chip in 5 to 10 goals for the year.
I'll give a name, and I think there's some Detroit connection there, but it is Gustav Nyquist. Could he have a reunion back to Detroit?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was always wondering if Detroit made sense for Victor Arvidsson. That was a name that I was hearing last night. I'm kind of wondering where the Boston came in, and maybe that's just the no move thing kicking in. I don't know, but I'm very interested to see if Detroit goes the trade route if they don't get their guy. But if there's a guy to be had, 1 or 2 year deal for Nicholas Ehlers might make sense, because that is a good top 6 scoring winger right there.
It is. I don't think Ehlers would be a great fit no matter where he ends up. Another name that, you and I both really like, Andrew Mangiapane.
Yeah. I have a feeling, and usually when you see these kind of players take this time, the likelihood of them re-signing does pop back up. I'm looking at teams with some high cap hit, only for him to really bank on a 1 year deal. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Mangiapane goes to one of the teams that have cap hit, which is maybe San Jose, Anaheim. You go just to have that 1 year, and you bet on yourself just so you can come back and do it again next year. And then you become a trade piece at the deadline where you can go and be a rental for a team that is contending.
Right. Well, that's what, because Mangiapane was with Calgary. I believe he then went and signed in Colorado. Became a trade piece for the Avalanche. I think Mangiapane probably wants to find a little bit of stability. And I'm wondering, another team like Minnesota, would that make sense for him to go in, be that player to play alongside Kaprizov?
Well, and I think when you look at Minnesota, as I'm pulling up their cap hit, they have 12.96 available right now. And the one big name that they still have to bring back in, or they need a new contract for Kaprizov. Yes, he's still on the books for one more year at 9. So it makes sense. But I also wonder if Minnesota is at a point where they're just another team, and I'd even put them in my Winnipeg category of teams that haven't done anything really monumental yet.
Right.
I don't know if Minnesota's even in play. I have not heard on anything I'm hearing about Minnesota in on anyone. The one guy I thought they would have been in on was Brock Besser,
Right.
and that doesn't happen. You'd have to wonder if, okay, would they have been in on Connor Brown? That makes sense. No, they were not. So who? I would have even have pegged them being in on Brandon Tanev. And that didn't happen.
What I'm looking at with Minnesota is they've got Marco Rossi, who is an RFA.
Yeah.
That they either need to sign or move. Now, we know they shot down a massive move from Vancouver on that deal. Do they sign Marco Rossi to a bridge deal? And then maybe you look at it again in a couple of years when he's still RFA.
Also, just to get up, James Van Riemsdyk signs a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Detroit Red Wings, and Jeff Petrie signs a 1-year contract with the Florida Panthers.
So, well, with Florida, the rich keep getting richer.
Yeah. Just to add some more depth there, Minnesota, we don't have a team for Ehlers. Is that a guy? Do you consider Ehlers? What about Jonathan Drouin? Does he do a return in Minnesota?
Drouin never played in Minnesota.
I thought he had a brief
Columbus.
stint in there.
Columbus, Colorado, Montreal.
Then who the hell am I thinking?
I know we were suggesting Brent Burns signs back with Minnesota last night when we were talking off our previous stream.
Who am I thinking? I don't know. Oh, I was thinking of Godet. That's who I was thinking of. But, yeah, I mean, Minnesota, you still got some wingers. You still got Dadonov out there. You still got Beauvillier. Could he be an option? Beauvillier could also be an option for Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm going to put one name that I'm kind of surprised has not signed yet, and that's Ilya Samsonov. He is still out there from a goaltending aspect. We talked about Georgiev. I would have Samsonov ranked just higher from a goalie thing than Georgiev.
You know what? And I mean, I can speak from experience with Samsonov. I was so excited when Washington let him go and go to free agency a couple of years ago. He was the one that I wanted the Leafs to sign. And he had that fantastic year. Outplayed the Prove It deal. Got another 1-year deal. And really, really struggled with just his confidence. It wasn't even his health, just his confidence.
Also, breaking, the Ken Holland connection comes back as Cody Ceci signs a 4-year deal, $4.5 million AAV contract with the LA Kings.
Okay. Wow.
The LA Kings really want to beat the Oilers this year in the first round.
Yep.
But yeah, no, with Samsonov, to me, I always wondered if that was the right fit for him to begin with. To me, it just seemed like something didn't work. And I don't know if necessarily if the one-off when that Prove It deal that you said, if that's what all it was meant to be, was just a Prove It deal. So yeah, I don't know. Also, I wonder if the style of Toronto really fit with the style of Samsonov. So I
Right.
wonder if Samsonov going to a team who has maybe a little bit more structure on a defensive system in mind might actually be a little bit more complementary.
Yes, but we did see Samsonov play with Las Vegas last year, and again, he struggled there.
And they also struggled defensively with Pietrangelo being very limited in what he was able to do. That was one of Vegas's concerns last year was their defense. So that's why I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see Vegas do something with the back end before this day's
Right.
done.
Another team that we haven't seen really do a whole lot, other than a signing they made well before free agency. I am talking about the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah. You have to wonder though with Chicago. Oh, by the way, Brian Dumoulin and Anton Forsberg also going to LA. Dumoulin on a 3-year, $4 million AAV. Forsberg on a 2-year, $2.25 AAV.
Okay.
So the LA Kings really ramping up on free agency today.
Well, Dumoulin's going to fill that hole left by Gavrikov.
Yeah, and that's that replacement. And then you bring in CC as that kind of bottom pairing guy. So you've kind of now rounded out your back end. Yeah, this is LA is kind of looking like one of those teams that could be a hard team to play against this year.
Yes, and I know you and I going into the playoffs this past year, both of us had LA defeating Edmonton in the first round.
Yeah, Edmonton shocked me. I'm not gonna lie. I know the only series this year I thought the Oilers had it was Dallas. That was the only one and I didn't even think they were gonna go by Vegas because they always struggle against Aiden Hill, or they make Aiden Hill seem like he's Superman against the Oilers. But to get back on your Chicago thing, that's where I think you go for your 1-year prove it deals. Like if Jeff Skinner wants a 1-year prove it deal, Chicago makes sense. If Mangiapane wants a 1-year prove it deal, and just to kind of really up his value, maybe he goes the Chicago route. If you're a goaltender and you want to prove it like a Samsonov, do you consider Chicago?
I think Chicago's net is solidified with Soderblom and Spencer Knight.
Yeah, but hasn't Spencer Knight had injury issues lately?
No, he was in the player assistance program.
No, I know that, but I thought he also was battling an injury as well.
Maybe a couple of years ago, but we didn't see him a whole lot with Florida this past year. I think he was probably with their AHL affiliate. This is giving him that opportunity to step up and play. But they really need somebody to play alongside Bedard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Donato, who went from being a fourth-line center to your second-line center and leading scorer this past year.
If you're going to do a 1-year everything deal, what about Ehlers? If Ehlers just wants to get paid, he might not be able to get that money from contending teams. But if you go to a Chicago Blackhawks and get $8 million for a year, you can have them trade you at the deadline, do a 50% retention, and then you're a $4 million cap hit for that team for a rental. I see that as possible. Olofsson is another possibility there. He's another guy that, if he's playing with the right guy, could net you 20, 25 if playing with a guy like that. So also, but there's something about maybe Skinner that I think could be a fit in Chicago. Another name that I wouldn't be shocked going to Chicago, you talked about him earlier, but Max Pacioretty, that could be a really nice veteran to kind of help Bedard, who kind of took a lot of criticism
Yes.
and had a lot of rough times with officiating last year. This could have just be a great mentor for him, which I think really is a really nice thing.
I mean, yes, he's got Nick Foligno. He's got currently Tyler Bertuzzi, but we were all anticipating him being bought out, which hasn't happened yet, which is a surprise.
Yeah.
But this is a team that gave up Seth Jones, who, I mean, didn't want to be there because he was tired of losing, and you can't blame him.
I don't want to lose, so I'll go to the team and win a championship. Seems like the thing. The Blackhawks did acquire Sam Lafferty from the Buffalo Sabres earlier today for a 26th sixth-round pick. So I don't hate that move at all. Lafferty, I do believe, had a Chicago connection beforehand. So there's some reunion type things there. Another move that I think could make sense for Chicago. Ooh, and breaking news, Jonathan Drouin has signed with the New York Islanders.
Oh, interesting. I know we were looking, like for Toronto, David Kampf has a Chicago connection. Long been rumored to going back there, and I wonder if that's where Toronto can make a move to move Kampf, move Yarncroke, even for future considerations, just for that cap dump.
Yeah. We talked about offer sheets earlier. There's also the possibilities that you could sign or you could trade for these RFAs.
Yes.
The name coming out of Buffalo. What was that name again?
Bowen Byram.
Bowen Byram. Would a Byram make sense in Chicago?
He absolutely would. He would give you that stability, and again, that not necessarily experience. Yes, he's played with Colorado. He's won the cup, but he's always been sort of that on the outside looking in. And if he's tired of losing in Buffalo after a year and a half, does he want to go to Chicago on a team that is, again, in a rebuild?
Yeah. And I think it's hard because I don't think Chicago's necessarily in a rebuild now. I think after you bring in a Connor Bedard, you definitely have a let's do some. Also, by the way, Capo Kakkonen had signs with the Canadiens as a goalie, so I think there's your goaltending answer.
Yep.
Back up Montembeault in Montreal. I have to wonder if Chicago starts kind of amplifying their movement to become more of a contender. Now, could this be the year where maybe they wait a year because you do have a Gavin McKenna in the draft next year?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they say we'll go one more year like this, and maybe we aim for that guy, and if we don't, then we kind of start really putting the wheels in motion here. But
yeah,
you have to wonder to the patient level of Bedard. I mean, I'll start doing it since everybody's talking about McDavid always leaving. But if Chicago is making no effort to get better, does somebody like Bedard choose, I want to stay with this organization? Because you have to wonder, at some point, you have to start doing something. And I don't think Connor Bedard is going to show loyalty to a team unwilling to do stuff for him.
Right. And I mean, he's going into his third year, which is going to be his RFA year.
Yeah. And you have to wonder if there's no extension in place for him, that is an offer sheet I think a lot of teams would go after.
Oh, absolutely. How could you not? This is where I'm wondering, does a Marco Rossi out of Minnesota make sense to go to a Chicago, whether it's as an offer sheet or whether it's via a trade?
Yeah. I would definitely say, yeah. I think if you have an opportunity to get any young player right now, that could complement your star player, you'd be silly not to be thinking about it. And that's why if I was Chicago, I'd be really looking at prove it deals, and my big ones would be those RFAs and seeing if there's moves to be made.
Right. I know as we're looking, I'm going to look up the free agent list here.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? We did see as well, we were talking about them earlier, the Carolina Hurricanes re-signed Logan Stankoven on an 8-year extension today.
Yes. And you'd have to wonder if that has to be validation for the Rantanen move. Obviously, you got Stankoven out of Dallas in that move as well. So you have to wonder if that's kind of the main piece. Stankoven is that young player that you kind of want in your top 6, possibly top 9, depending. He's that versatile. He can play in either position, in either role. I like this move for Carolina because it really solidifies that top 9 a little bit more. But if I'm Carolina, I'm still looking for that big name.
Yes. And where do you find that big name? And I wonder if that Marco Rossi, again, plays that factor. We know that they have essentially got a deal in place to get Keandre Miller from the Rangers.
They've already traded. I think they're in the position of signing an extension with him. That is definitely something already kind of in the pipeline. Also, Jack Studnicka goes to Florida as well. It doesn't seem like that's a big contract.
No, he was a guy that, and I have a friend who was a huge Boston fan who was really excited for Studnicka. Then they traded him to Vancouver. He's never really fit in and broken through to the NHL level.
No, but I wonder, being a depth piece in Florida, if that kind of takes the maybe pressure away from him from having to be a top guy. And now you're like, oh, now you get to learn from a Barkov, and you get to really kind of shadow kind of stuff he does and really learn from him and take that advice. I like that. You always have to like the fact that you have really great players to learn from. Barkov is like a Selke winner almost every year now. And if you can transition into playing a role like him, that could be a very, very big weapon for Florida. Also, 2 years, $4 million on average for Jonathan Drouin.
Not bad. First real, significant offensive move for the Islanders.
Yeah.
Drouin has always been sort of that consistent middle 6 guy who never wows you but doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly the world's best Tampa Bay Lightning. I know he clashed with, I think it was Steve Yzerman at the time, who kind of had to do some damage control and didn't rush to move him. I know the experiment in Montreal, and that wasn't really a thing. But I believe going to Colorado and playing with McKinnon, that really put a lot of pieces back into the puzzle. And with Islanders also signing Ethan Bear to a two-year deal earlier today, they've made a few small moves.
Right.
I don't know if the Islanders necessarily had to go all out. I don't know if this was the day to do that, simply because I don't know if the names were there.
Right.
But could they be looking at Ehlers, or could they be looking at other guys? I don't know. But if I'm Islanders and I don't have to overpay to bring people in, I'm not. I'll go to the trade route.
Yes. And I wonder, because we know that Ehlers and Patrick Laine are best friends. We know that they do have that history together from Winnipeg. Does Ehlers become that fit for Montreal to play alongside a Laine on that second line?
Perhaps. Also, by the way, Nick Perbix signs a 2-year, $2.75 contract with the Predators.
Okay.
Maybe I'd have to look at what the deal is because I just don't know if Ehlers, if you're leaving the situation in Winnipeg, do you want to go back to a Canadian market or are you looking to get out of the limelight? Like, why don't you want to stay there?
Right.
Is it the market or is it because you're getting good minutes, you're doing well, the team wants you. So what is it about the situation that you didn't like? Now, he very well could be signing back. Like, that's still a possibility.
Absolutely.
But would he go and play with Line? Maybe, but I'd have to wonder, is that enough for him to go to Montreal?
Because Montreal is going to be a lot more pressure than Winnipeg is. Winnipeg, we know, is going to be that consistent playoff team, perennial contender, but they need a proven playoff goalie.
Yeah.
And is it the fact that you are that perennial cup contender every year? You've got all these expectations, and then you're choking, much like Toronto.
Mm-hmm. And if you're Toronto, you do have some cap relief right now.
We do. We did sign Michael Pezzetta today from Montreal to a 2-year, $1.5 million per.
Yeah, and if you're looking at, I'm assuming you're definitely looking at a winger.
Yeah.
Ehlers could be that guy.
Yes.
But again, is that one of the few things that you can say, okay, this is the right guy? I'd be careful because I wouldn't break the bank over Ehlers for a couple years.
Right.
But that could work. But I just don't know if that's the right fit for you guys, because if Ehlers is a guy that you want to help at the end of the season into the playoffs, is Ehlers kind of that right piece then?
Right. And I'm looking at, because with Toronto, we got 3 players back who all re-signed at very, very team-friendly deals. In Tavares at 4.3 for 4 years. Nyes at 6 years, 7 3/4. And then Steve Lorentz at 3 years, 1.05, I believe.
Yeah. I'm also looking at Toronto. You guys have just over $5 million in cap space. I don't know if that's enough to bring in Ehlers.
No, we would have to. That's where, again, we would have to move David Kampf, Kalle Järnkrok, Max Pacioretty, although I would personally like to see him back. I just don't think he is that piece.
Yeah, Pacioretty right now is not even on the payroll for Toronto, so that's definitely something there.
He's UFA.
Kampf would bring in a 2.4 relief, making it 7.4. I still don't know if that's enough. You said the other name was who again?
Kalle Järnkrok, which would be another 2.1.
Yeah, but why don't I see him on here? There we go. Yeah. And I think that could be a very movable contract because it is 1 year. I think moving a 1 year contract could be a lot easier than a 2 year.
Yeah.
But I'd have to look at teams that maybe missed out on getting a guy. Maybe they would consider Toronto and be like, hey, are you looking at moving this person? And they're like, potentially. That's why I think a trade route is better even for Toronto, because you have the pieces to make that trade and you don't have to overpay, because the cap space is not exactly your best tool right now because of you don't want to overpay for a contract, but you also don't have that ability to overpay because anything over 5 really puts you in a deep hold, and you want to have at least some cap room going into the season, whether it's the waiver wire or even the trade deadline.
Right. And I mean, we're looking at we need a distributor on the top line for Matthews and Nyes. We need that guy that can go into the corners on the second line for Tavares and Nylander. Now you're looking at Nicholas Waugh, Bobby McMahon, and potentially Nick Robertson on your third line with Lorentz, Pizzetta, and Scott Laughton as your fourth line. We know the Ryan Reeves era in Toronto is over. It's done. It was a failed experiment. He's going to play in the AHL next year.
And you're able to now I'm just gonna pull him up to see kind of what his cap hit is still, even if he doesn't play in the NHL. I believe it's the same. Yeah, I don't think he has a change. His minor salary is still 1.35 mil. So it doesn't change for him. Also, as of right now, 2025, 47 signings for a total of $274.6 million as of midday free agency on July 1.
We haven't seen a lot of these overpayments this year. I know you and I were expecting a lot more trade action today as well.
There's been some overpayments. I mean, I would definitely say the Corey Perry up to 3.5, or was it 3.5 for him, might be an overpayment for a 1-year, 40-year-old. Connor Brown might be a slight overpayment. I do believe that 2.2 could have got him done in Edmonton, but if that was a little rich here, you have to wonder 3 mil is a little bit more. But I don't think you're seeing a lot of big time overpayments, but there's not a lot of big names that usually garner those overpayments.
Right.
But I mean, there's a lot more friendlier deals. I think this is something that you see more in a cap hit, or a cap market. Obviously, the big contracts are going to take up a big percentage of your contract or of your team salary cap. So most teams already have those done. I would still argue 4.5 for Cody Ceci is a massive overpayment. We both view him as a bottom 6 defenseman or like a third pairing defenseman. So for that to be $4 million, Brian Dumoulin at $4 million, that's $8 million on those two defensemen right there, or 8.5. They better pan out, or LA is in some serious trouble on the back end in the next few years.
Absolutely. Now, are a lot of teams taking note of what happened last year with Nashville?
Maybe, but at the same time, you didn't have a Jonathan Marchessault and a Steven Stamkos in this year's draft.
No.
You just didn't. And that was a big one. I'm very interested or intrigued to kind of see kind of where you go. Now, Roslovic, what team did he play for last year again?
I want to say the Hurricanes.
I do too. I wonder if he makes sense as a replacement for Nicholas Ehlers going back to Winnipeg.
I think he could, but I think when they moved him in that Line A deal for Dubois, and yes, I got to go back to that one. I think he was happy to get closer to home, playing for Columbus, and then going to New York before going to Carolina.
But you have to wonder too, if that's your only option, do you look at a 1-year deal to go back to a familiar place? It is a contender. So I don't know. I would have to look at almost any possibility. The later that you decide not to sign, your options do become limited. So I don't know. It might be easier to go to the place that you know than take a chance on a place you don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you have to wonder, like, the Winnipeg does offer you a contending team. They still have one of the best goalies in the league in Connor Hellebuck. When you have the kind of the system they have great. They have a great kind of depth system down there. I don't know. They do have a little bit of money to spend. You might be able to cash out for a season.
A few other intriguing names on the trade board potentially out of Pittsburgh: Brian Rust and Ricard Raquel. Now, we know that Pittsburgh was asking for really the moon at the trade deadline on Raquel, but he is a 25-30 goal scorer. Is there a team that has what it takes to step up, make that trade for him?
Yeah, I think there is. It might be dollars in, dollars out kind of a deal for Raquel. I do think Raquel will be more of a trade bait for teams than any other one. I think he still has I think his value is the highest. Okay. Who could take him? I mean, if I'm looking at anybody, Raquel and the Jets do make sense. But if you're going to put a team in the East, Carolina.
Okay.
I kind of like him in Carolina.
Okay. I was going to suggest, do those two players become that asset for Bedard and Donato in Chicago to really say, okay, this is us now trying to move forward for you?
You'd have to get commitment out of the players, because if they're just looking at it as a temporary place to play, then no. You'd have to get that commitment out of the players, because I do think a commitment out of people coming in and playing in Chicago would then help the decisions from those camps to want to stay.
Right. And again, like, we know that a team like Buffalo, they have the pieces, but they always have that one step forward, two steps back culture.
Yeah.
We saw them, really get rid of the locker room problem last year in Dylan Cousins, moving him to Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
Would they make sense going there to play with Tage Thompson and Peyton Krebs?
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to look that. As we did have our comments turned off for a bit, we do want to say hi to Chris Best coming in. Does have some comments of, as much as I despise the Knights, they do make more moves than everyone. And then the Oilers will forever have the Kings number. LOL. Sorry, say that one more time.
With Buffalo having gotten rid of the locker room problem, I guess, as it was described last year in Dylan Cousins, would Raquel and Rust make sense to come in and play with Tage Thompson, Peyton Krebs, Josh Norris?
I like Rust in Buffalo. I think that's a place that would probably take that contract. I don't know if I like Raquel in Buffalo. I kind of like Raquel more on a Western team, to be quite honest. I think some of his best years was with Anaheim. I'd actually prefer to see Raquel in a place like San Jose for a short time, to be quite honest, over Buffalo.
Okay.
But I do like Rust in Buffalo. I think he'd do okay there. A guy that I'm at, two guys actually. You got P.S. Suter still on the market, and you have Dmitry Orlov still on there. Where would you think those two wind up?
P.S. Suter, I'm going to say he makes a lot of sense to me going to a San Jose. He stays out west. He's going to get paid, obviously. he's young enough to fit in with the Celebrini Eklund thing, as well as still provide that experience. What was the other name you mentioned?
Pia Suter and Dmitry Orlov.
Orlov, I think he's getting to the sort of the back end of his career. I think it makes sense for him to maybe go somewhere where he can provide a little bit of experience, a little bit of leadership, and maybe some stability on the back end, something that is needed maybe in Edmonton.
Right now, we don't have, like, we have six or seven defensemen already signed. If I'm going to sign Orlov, I'd probably just see if Klingberg comes back.
Okay.
To be fair. I was thinking if Pittsburgh was to move on from Carlson, would Orlov make sense there?
I think he would, and I believe there is a connection there. I believe that would be a reunion.
I do too, and that's kind of another place I would think. I'll even put this one out there. What about the Ottawa Senators?
I think that would be a good fit to help stabilize, especially in that third pairing. Because if you're looking for somebody now who can back up a Thomas Chabot and Jake Sanderson, that would be absolutely fantastic. I'm also looking at a Brent Burns to Ottawa.
Yeah. Also, Tanner Pearson is going to Winnipeg.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I believe that is a reunion, is it not?
I believe it is too. No details have been out there yet, but yeah, as right now, Tanner Pearson going to Winnipeg. That's another team I'm wondering what they're going to do, and that is Ottawa Senators. I've been hearing their names out there for a few things. In fact, I was told that if he became available on July 1, Ottawa would have been a major suitor, or at least a player going after a Aaron Ekblad.
Yep.
Which I'll kind of say this: if you're going to go after Ekblad, when in Ottawa you want to go after a Gavrikov too. Just going to put that out there. Why not?
I have heard them somewhat linked to him for that type of a situation. They did give Claude Giroux the 1-year deal, incentive laden. Again, would a Raquel or a Rust make sense going there to provide some secondary scoring for Stützle and Tkachuk?
I'll go you one better. What about Marco Rossi and Ottawa Senators?
I think if you're going to do that, that's putting Rossi to your third line and dropping Giroux to your fourth.
But when you put a Giroux, because you can play Giroux center or wing, right?
Could.
So you could have him on that same line and kind of be that veteran for Rossi. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad way to go about it. Yeah, I'm kind of curious because I wouldn't be surprised if Ottawa does something today.
No, me neither. I mean, we're only really halfway through the...
I mean, they do have just over 7.3 million cap space. If I'm kind of looking at what they could do, I mean, they're pretty set on the back end with 2, 4, 6, 7 defensemen signed. Another one could be there. If you're Ottawa and you're looking at maybe a versatile type player, would a Mangiapane make sense?
Oh, 100% it would.
And I think that could be somewhere or someone of...
But you've also just given up Anton Forsberg, who was your backup goalie last year, to Allmark. Is this where a Samsonov or a Georgiev makes sense to come in?
Absolutely. I think you're definitely looking at a cheaper option there because you are paying Hallmark 8.25. So if you can get, I think it all comes down to who's the cheaper option that provide you the bang for the buck. Again, another name I'll just put out there with Thatcher Demko getting that $5 million deal with Vancouver. They have him and Lankinen getting 9.5 in that crease. I want to think Shiloh's is the odd man out there.
Yeah.
And after he had a performance of performances in the Calder Cup,
right,
I can only assume he is somebody that is in major play and probably major asking right now.
Right. Another goaltender that we haven't brought up is going to be, with St. Louis having just re-signed Joel Hofer. Does this put Jordan Binnington, even though he is their proven starter, does this put him in play for the trade market?
Yeah, but I think he'd be more of a trade deadline type of deal. I think you roll with those two as your 1-2, whether it's 1A, 1B. I think Binnington has earned the right to still be your starter. But I do think you have that cushion with Hoffer kind of being there as that backup. It was a very team-friendly extension that Hoffer made as well. Tanner Pearson, by the way, is 1 year, $1 million deal. Okay. And they also had a similar deal with Cole Koepke as well. That's Winnipeg Jets, sorry. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very much on the whole. I think if you're going to make a goaltending move for St. Louis, you'd wait to the deadline. You see kind of where your season takes you.
Right.
I think if I was St. Louis, I'm going to just pull up what their cap space is right now because they are just shy of $1 million. So they're I'm just seeing if they have anybody on LTIR, if they're going to move in. Oh, yeah, they do have Torrey Krug kind of out on there, so they'll have just over $5 million. They seem to be pretty set, kind of on their roster, so I don't see the need for St. Louis to make any moves right now. I think they're pretty set in their place. And if they're moving at Kyrou, that opens up a lot of room.
Well, I was just going to say, because we know that they do have names out there that they are potentially discussing trades with, but Kyrou, his name was out there, but of course his no move clause has kicked in as of midnight last night.
Yeah. And I think that's why his name was out there to kind of move him prior to that. But I do think now, I think those conversations are going to be very quiet from here on out. I don't see St. Louis moving away from Kyrou now. I think they're stuck on him for a few years. I'd have to see just how, if on that contract, if he's going to have a no move for the remainder of his contract, or if that's something to. It's a no trade clause, not a no move clause.
Okay.
And in 2030-31, it's a modified no trade clause. So it's really intriguing. He did have a no trade clause last year as well. But I think it opens up at some point. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Kyrou might be a St. Louis Blue for the next few years.
Right. Because I was going to say, would Kyrou be that option to go and fill the void from Nikolai Ehlers in Winnipeg if they were able to get that deal done? And if you're Winnipeg, do you really go big game hunting with St. Louis? Because we know Braden Shen's name was out there last year. And then you get the Shen brothers reunited in Winnipeg.
Yeah, you'd be really hoping for everything to fall in place. He'd have to want to go there. He'd have to waive his no trade clause. You'd have to find that right thing. I'm sure the money has to comply. You can't just assume a team's going to eat up an $8.13 million cap hit. So I think there's a lot of hurdles in that trade.
Right. What about Columbus? We haven't really discussed them.
They haven't made a lot of big moves. They're a team that doesn't necessarily do a heck of a whole lot on free agency, like on July 1. So I don't know, like if you were Columbus, what are you doing? Like what would you do if you're Columbus Blue Jackets right now?
I think, again, that's where I believe, again, a reunion with Dmitry Orlov could help. And I wonder if they become a fit for a Nikolai Ehlers, because they're sort of really under the radar. They struggled to make the playoffs, but we did see them take that step forward last year. And you need to get some goal scoring.
They do have 21 mil in cap space, just shy of 21 mil. They have 7 defensemen signed. You could have that winger in Ehlers. I look at maybe a Roslovic as well, kind of going back there. I can see Klingberg making sense there. Olsen could be a cheap option as well, but if you really want to do a center or anything like that, Mason Appleton, Mangiapane, those would be the people I'm going after. I think they'd be very, very cheap 1-2 year deal kind of guys.
Right. Now, another thing we haven't discussed, which is something that's going to come up closer to the season and closer to training camp, are PTOs.
Yep. I think Radish will get a PTO. I think Beauvillier will probably be a PTO kind of a player. Unless teams really step up for them, I wouldn't be surprised if Nyquist is a PTO. Okay. Usually you do see older players do those PTOs. I could see a Holmberg being a PTO just because I think there's better options than him right now. So
there absolutely are, but I could also see Holmberg re-signing in Toronto. As much as I've said I fully expected him to be dealt or moved on from, and I still do, but I could see him re-signing if we move on from Nick Robertson.
Yeah, I would really have to think if there's any trades out there going on, it has to be you either missed out on a player and you want to see if that same player is available in trade, or you have to just be thinking, no, maybe you just have more of a, I think it'd be more of offloading a contract to bring in another one kind of a deal, like money in, go money out kind of a deals. I don't know. Like there's something that kind of gives me, like we've kind of had in the last like 20, 30 minutes, very little activity. I wonder if we're going to get very little activity left for the remaining of the day. This could be the best time now to kind of see what you didn't do, what you did do, have those teams kind of take the next few hours to kind of reassess their next moves.
Right.
Because I don't think there's a rush to do anything. I don't see what the rush is at this point now.
No.
A lot of the big names are gone. There's not a lot of big names left. I do believe Ehlers has said he's not signing today anyway.
Right.
So
The only way I think Ehlers signs today is if the
money
deal and the fit are just perfect, or if it's a re-signing in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we've learned today, like, you can't disclose the re-signing, because how many people had Brock Besser re-signing in Vancouver?
Right.
I think that was the one that probably surprised a lot of people. Now, I never once heard Brock Besser say he wants out of Vancouver.
No.
But at the same time, everything was pointing to him leaving Vancouver. So
he had always stated he wanted to remain a Canuck. He wanted to be there.
But
he was disheartened at the fact that it was likely his last game, the 82nd game of the season.
Yeah.
Until today.
It just seems very, very much of a situation to where you'd have to wonder if the player from the get-go never wanted to leave, but I wonder where that narrative came from of him out. But why didn't he, if he wanted to stay, why didn't he do the 8 years? That to me is such an intriguing thing, because you don't see a lot of teams, or a lot of players, go through that whole offseason without the re-signing, wait till moments into free agency just to re-sign, and leave that extra year off the table.
Right, but we also don't know if he has the no move or a no trade clause as part of this deal. Or does this become something bigger down the road when, okay, Vancouver is, because we don't know what Vancouver is going to be this year.
I can actually let you know he does have a no move clause.
Oh, okay.
It's a no move clause. It's a full no move clause for the first 3 years of the deal. Or sorry, where are we? We were at the 25-26. No move clause for 1, 2, 3, 4 years of the deal, and then the last 3 are modified no move clauses.
Okay. I can tell you Radek Faksa has signed a 3-year, $6 million deal with the Dallas Stars.
Okay. Now, was he already there? So he re-signed then?
I believe so.
So
no, he came over from St. Louis.
But he was with Dallas before.
I believe so, yes.
I think that is a reunion then.
Yes, drafted 13th overall by the Stars in 2012.
Yeah. So he either signed in St. Louis or he went over in a trade.
Yeah. And I like that move for Dallas.
I do too. They're a team that's been very quiet today. The big announcement is Glenn Gulletson as their new head coach. So that's not exactly the move that wins you free agent frenzy.
No, it's not.
It's one that makes. But yeah, I mean, getting somebody back that's familiar with them, it doesn't disrupt their team. Yeah, it's a fair move. He'll go right back in, and I'm just wondering what else they're gonna do. Are they gonna do anything else? I know they're not gonna do anything in goal. They don't need to do anything in goal.
No.
You have to think their defense is pretty solid the way it is. They didn't seem to lose many people, so yeah, probably just run it back with what they have and make minor moves like bringing back Boston.
Right. And I wonder, like, we know they have Jake Ottinger, and I can't remember if Casey DeSmith is still their backup or if he's potentially moved on from.
I can tell you in just a little bit of a second. I'm just finding out what their cap situation is right now. They're over by just shy of 1.8. I'm just saying if there's anybody they are going to maybe move away from now. They have Casey DeSmith for another 2 years at 1 mil.
Okay.
So if I know that Matt Dumba's name has kind of been out there for
Yes.
a possible trade, so maybe you move out of Matt Dumba and then you bring in maybe somebody at a lesser cap hit to be a little bit more compliant. Who knows?
Right. Does Dumba make sense to go and replace a Seth Jones on the back end in Chicago?
I don't necessarily know if he is going to go up to Chicago, but if you want to dump a full contract, Chicago might be the place to do it. So I would even say maybe same with a San Jose, because Matt Dumba, his contract does have, I believe it's 3.75 for 1 year. It's a very easy contract to move.
Yeah.
There's no term on it. It's again 1 year. So yeah, I think at this point you're looking at any possibilities there with him. But I do think if you're going to move Matt Dumba, you have to be pretty sure that you're going to relieve that contract, but also two, you have to have something in place because that's still a hit on your back end.
Admittedly, I don't remember hearing a whole lot from Dumba this past season or the playoffs, so I wonder if he was more of a, player coach type of thing, really doing the practices but spending a lot of time in the press box.
I'm just going to pull it up because he might have been, I know he was a healthy scratch for a while. Yeah, it seems it was more of a production issue. So an off year, more or less, for Matt Dumba last year. But also you got a new coach. He is a coach who definitely takes the time to kind of work with the players more often. This could be a good thing for Matt Dumba with a new voice in the locker room.
Right. Another fit that I think would be there for Dumba would be to go once again and play with Jacob Trouba and Chris Kreider in Anaheim.
Very well. The thing with Anaheim is very weird. I don't know where I have Anaheim in the overall thought. They're a very confusing team in the last few years for me. I don't see what their direction is. You basically move Zegras for nothing. And then you bring in older people, and I really don't know what they're doing in Anaheim, but I don't know. I don't know.
And I really find it funny because Anaheim now is really this year going to be running a 3-goalie platoon. You've got Ville Husso, Peter Mrazek, and Lucas Dostal.
Yeah, and I wonder if that move for Gibson and getting Mrazek back was a short-term spot for either Mrazek or if they were going to move out another goalie. But I have to wonder if that was done for a reason.
Right.
Because I can't see them bringing in all three goalies.
No, we know that Dostal really took over the crease last year for Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
And Gibson wants to be that number one guy.
Yeah.
Mrazek has been a starter with Detroit, with Chicago, with Toronto. And Husso has been a starter with St. Louis. Well, actually, he was the backup to Binnington, I believe. But and then Detroit, but things never panned out in Detroit for him.
Yeah. On goaltending, though, we Matt Murray is now going to Seattle.
Okay.
But staying on the goaltending thing, I have to admit, if I'm Edmonton, I'm looking at the scenario now. Does Edmonton have to do something? No. But it very well could be. Now we know. I'm trying to think, who was the team that we said earlier only had the one goalie?
Ottawa right now.
Yeah. Could Ottawa be in the market for one of those goalies?
Absolutely, but I think if you're going to look at any one of those, I think your best fit has to be a Ville Husso.
Unless, like, I'm going to look at the contracts for all of them and just see, because if anyone just has a one-way ticket, like a 1-year deal kind of a thing, you have to wonder if that's a plausible move. As I'm looking at their goalies, the only goalie contracted next year for them is Ville Husso. Doskel is an RFA right now, needing a new contract. Could he be an offer sheet goalie? That could be a possibility. But if I'm Anaheim, I'm maybe moving out Mrazek with that 4.25, and I'm giving that money to Doskel.
Right?
But I wonder if that Mrazek move is there in case they don't come to terms with Doskel. They should be. They have just shy of 36 million in cap space.
Yeah.
Money should not be a problem right now.
No, but it's a matter of getting the players who want to be there.
Yeah. But if I'm also Anaheim, I'm looking at this as the number one thing. For the next 3 years, they have their first round pick. They have 2 second round picks. Or they had 2 in 25. They have 1 in 26. They have 3 in 27. They have all their third round picks. They have 2 fourth round picks in 26, none in 27. They're very stocked in picks.
Yes.
Is the Anaheim Ducks prime candidates for an offer sheet this year? I'm looking at Byram. I'm looking at Rossi. Could this be a team to watch out for an offer sheet?
100%. I think they have to be.
They have the cap. They have the draft picks.
Yes. And I mean, if you're going to look at putting people in there with a Mason McTavish, Troy Terry, Frank Vetrano, now you've got the Chris Kreider, Jacob Trouba leadership. Are one of those offer sheets the guys that really start to help elevate them back to where they were in the days of Getzlaf and Perry?
Maybe, or because I'm going to look at Buffalo right now. I want to look at their goaltending. Right now, they only have one goaltender under contract, as they have Devin Levy as an RFA. You have to think they'll get that one done.
Yeah.
You also have Connor Timmins and Bowen Byram as your RFAs, along with Ryan McLeod and Tyson Kozak. So yeah, I'm like, if you're Bowen Byram, what are you expected to make? Because you had a 3.85 cap hit last year. What do you think gets done? I would say maybe a 5 to 6, somewhere in that range per year.
That would be where I'm at, 5.5, 6 million.
I can even think like a team, if you're going to be really much on that whole, do 6.25 for 8 years.
Yeah.
I could see something like that. Because if I'm, I think Buffalo has that space to match. I think that's kind of more this, because they have just over 22 million in cap space too.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're in a cap crunch by any means, but you do have a few players there. If I'm any team, do you make multiple offer sheets? And you an offer sheet a Levi, you offer sheet a Byram, and you choose the team to pick which one.
I think again you have to, but I think like you have to be smart. Like if you're Anaheim, you don't go in and offer sheet a Levi when you're now really crowding your crease. I do think you can offer sheet a Byram. We know that he asked Buffalo for a trade, so I don't think Buffalo would be dumb enough to match. I think they'd be smart enough to take the picks and run.
Could they be a prime spot for a trade and sign, or a sign and trade?
100%.
So if I'm Anaheim, I could be looking at a sign and trade, and I say, okay, we'll give you said player, said pick, if we get Bowen Byram with the sign and trade of 8 years, say $6 million.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody says no.
But again, the question is like if you're Bowen Byram and you don't want to keep losing in Buffalo, do you want to go to a team like Anaheim that has struggled when you came from Colorado, where you were fresh off of a cup run, to then
they did move on from him after. That's a thing.
They did.
Though. So the team that won also said, we can still win without you.
Yeah.
I think when you talk about the Jacob Trubas being on that team, those are guys that you want to play for and play with. I can see Anaheim's defense core maybe starting to be building as that. Yeah, you want to be there. You still have Radko Gudas there. So those are two big leaders on the back end. So if you're Bowen Byram, you're probably playing with one of those two. Because they're both right shot defensemen, and I do believe Bowen Byram's a left shot defenseman. He is. So if you have a chance to play with either, and I would assume given his age, you're playing with Trouba.
Yeah.
On the top line. You're going to get top line minutes on that team. I would welcome that opportunity. Also, Matt Murray is a 1-year, $1 million deal. So, yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot of very small contracts being made there.
Well, and I think you're seeing a lot of teams now who are going to take advantage of the extra cap flexibility this year with the cap having gone up to really save to load up at the trade deadline. Because, again, this is really the last year for long-term injury going into the playoffs.
Well, it is, but I think the major thing is you have to be cap compliant going into the playoffs. I don't think the LTIR is going away. I think you just have to be cap compliant going in the playoffs, and I think the LTIR is something that isn't going to necessarily help you in the long haul moving forward. But yeah, I'm very intrigued with this, knowing that you're talking about the cap going up. It goes up even more next year. So that's why I'm wondering how many of these 1-year deals are that prove it deal have to be the case just to get that, playing time that, getting into a situation, getting a training camp, getting that proper off-season routine back into place. So very, very interesting to see how many of these 1-year deals get moved at the deadline, as you're saying. I would say probably a good half of them. And I would even put Corey Perry in that position. If the LA Kings don't seem to be moving in that direction that they should be, I wouldn't be surprised to see Corey Perry on the move.
See, and I find it funny because, LA last year had the best home record in the NHL with only 4 losses at home during the regular season. And then, yeah, they fell apart after going up 2-0 in the first round to the Oilers.
Well, that's just the thing, though. Like, I think, one, they were underestimating it. Two, it's just a matter of time before the Oilers' offense clicked back again in that playoffs. Two, you make that massive mistake with the goalie interference that comes back, and they score a goal. You go back on the penalty kill. They score again, and now the momentum went down. They basically shot themselves in the foot there. And let's face it, this is a team that they had the Oilers in their head the entire time because they're trying to get over that hump. It's very much like your team with the Boston Bruins back in the day. And you'd have to question kind of the mold of that team. Did they have what it took to get over the hump in the playoffs? The regular season's one battle, but ask Connor Hellebuck how the playoffs went, he would say a different story.
Yeah,
it wasn't as dominating as the regular season was. So
no.
a lot of weird things happened in the playoffs. A lot of players didn't really play up to their par, and we saw some things being changed. Still very curious to see Jack Roslovic's name on that board. He did make $4.2 million last year. You wonder if that contract is coming down. I would say if the team offers him 2.7, he's probably signing right now.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting because we haven't seen the movement today right off the bat. I mean, we are a little over 3.5 hours in, and very, very slow in terms of the news. But as we alluded to, all of the really big names came off the board yesterday in Mitch Marner, Aaron Ekblad, Brad Marchand, and prior to that, Sam Bennett, John Tavares.
Yeah. I'm just getting word that 3 teams are very in on Mangiapane. They are your Toronto Maple Leafs, they are the Colorado Avalanche, and they're my Edmonton Oilers. A team that is extremely interested and pursuing Nikolai Ehlers, the Washington Capitals.
Wow.
So look for the Leafs, Avalanche, Oilers as potential suitors for Mangiapane, possibly the Capitals for Ehlers.
I like that fit for Ehlers on Washington.
That would definitely give their power play a little bit more of a second look. So if you don't have that boom from Ovechkin, you could get that nice little setup feed to Ehlers, or you have that big shot as your big weapon on power play 1, and then you can use Ehlers as your big weapon on power play 2.
Yeah.
So.
I'm really intrigued with the Mangiapane thing. Like we said, he would be a tremendous fit on Toronto. We know he's got history in the province of Alberta, having started his career with Calgary.
Yeah.
And a reunion with the Colorado Avalanche.
The one thing I do like about him in Edmonton, it's the same reason why I do like Adam Henrique, is the versatility of being able to play the wing, play the center. Now, when you're on, the one thing about Edmonton, as they did a lot in the last few years, is they line jumble, and you got to be a versatile player. That probably that's a guy that definitely fits in with that Edmonton offense. It's interesting to see what that opportunity would do for Colorado. They are a way different team now than what he played for before.
Yes.
And is this more of a we lost Drew Wen type of a scenario? I think so. I think this would be a Drew Wen replacement. And then for Toronto, I think the same thing goes with what I said about Edmonton. You know, you could put him wherever. He can be one of those guys that you could fit in on your first line on the wing. You could put him third line center. You can even put him on the wing on the second line. He fits in all those spots. He also plays very well defensively. He'll kill penalties. That's always something teams like.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, Mangiapane is a guy that I have coveted for the Leafs for since his days in Calgary. I was hoping that the year he signed in Colorado, he would have signed with Toronto then. Had a down year with Colorado, which led to them moving on from him. Started to pick himself back up a little bit this year with Washington, but it's a matter of the players he had around him. And in Colorado, yes, you've got the McKinnon, the Landeskog, the Makar, but he wasn't fitting in there. I think he didn't quite fit the mold of what they were looking for, so they moved on. So I don't know if he's going to fit that mold still, because it's the same coach, the same GM.
Yeah, but I mean, also I think the ask of the player is going to change it just a little bit. There is that familiarity, so that could be a reason why it makes sense. But at the same time, Colorado Avalanche, proven winner. They're a team that is going to be competitive. So makes sense. I think with Colorado right now, dude, are they going to be, how much cap are they going to have after this deal's done? I think that's kind of something that's really going to challenge them. I mean, they do have 7.5 in cap space right now. Man, Colorado does not have many draft picks, by the way. They do have Logan O'Connor injured. I don't know if he's going to be an LTIR kind of a deal, but if they were to sign him, I wonder if that makes a Martin Necas more available for a move.
Well, and
because he was 1 year at 6.5. I don't think he's re-signing.
No, we've heard that he wasn't happy. Like when they made that trade of Rantanen for Necas, we know that Necas wanted to test the market out of Carolina, but that move still blindsided.
He didn't want necessarily to test a free agency. He wanted a good contract out of Carolina, whereas Carolina wanted him. They wanted that bridge deal. They wanted to get a little bit more. I think this say, hey, if you don't give me what I want, I will test the free agent market when my contract's up. And I think that was kind of the scare is, okay, maybe he's not going to re-sign if we're not willing to give him the big payday. So you have to wonder if that's something that really had no I wonder if the faith was kind of lost between player and management, and that's why he was moved. And then he kind of maybe overplayed his hand just a little bit. I'm not too sure, but
But Necas didn't have that drop off in Colorado that we saw from Rantanen in Carolina until the deal to Dallas, where he picked himself back up.
Yeah.
Does Necas then, if Mangiapane signs in Carolina or in Colorado, and we are looking at Toronto, Edmonton, and Colorado as being those three teams, does Necas make sense for a trade to Toronto or Edmonton? Would Necas be that winger for a Draisaitl?
I mean, if you don't want him in your team, I think there's something wrong with you. He's a one. You'd have to get that. You'd have to get an extension in place, and I think he'd probably be asking for $8 million. I don't know if either team has that capability. Toronto might. In the years, I don't know what you're looking at in the next couple of years. I don't think the Oilers do. Not with Connor McDavid getting needing an extension, and from what I'm being told, Connor McDavid extension could very well be at the latter end of the month, but the full expectation from what I'm hearing is that it will happen. And that's something I think is going to be priority number one, clearly.
Right. Right.
And then see kind of where it goes, because again, you got some decisions to make after this year still.
Right.
You don't have a goalie after this year contracted. You have only, I think, 3 defensemen contracted, and you have, I think, four forwards coming off your books. So there's going to be some decision. I think you have a little bit over 44 million after this year, and you have a lot of moves that you have to make. So
Right. I do think, and I've said it coming into today, I think that like Walcott took a lot of unfair criticism for being forced into a situation, and Toronto didn't have him ready. I do still think he is going to be traded at some point this season. This year is Yarncroke's last year. Kemp has 2 more years. Domi has 3 more years. Lawton's going to be gone after this year. Brandon Carlo is done after this year. So we do have a lot of money being freed up, and I'm wondering if a Kemp and a Yarncroke going out to Colorado on short-term deals is going to be enough, or do you move a Domi out to a Colorado?
yeah, that definitely could be one. I'm still a little bit on the why extend Domi train for Toronto. I understood that you like the player. I understand the family ties. I just don't understand why you thought you couldn't get a similar player somewhere else.
Right.
I always thought Max Domi was a little on the and what else kind of a thing. Like, I just thought he was a little bit underwhelming of a player. I don't hate him. I just don't love him. So I don't know. For me, I was a little bit surprised why Toronto thought that was the fit, especially when, they chose to have Max Domi in their franchise over extending a Mitch Marner. When you really think about it, they thought a few more years of Max Domi is what we wanted, but not paying Mitch Marner, this wasn't an idea. And I really questioned that call.
Right. And I mean, you touched on it there with the family ties, the history. Let's not forget, Domi has history with 2 other franchises. And I'm not going to talk about Montreal and Arizona, as well as, because he's been a journeyman. But his dad had the history with playing with the Rangers and the Jets as well.
Yeah, and then I believe Domi had some time in Dallas as well. Did he not?
Yes.
And to me, I always liked him in Dallas. I thought he was a good fit in Dallas. I think a team that he would fit really well in would have been Vegas, to be quite honest. I think he would have had some success there. LA was another team I always liked him in. But yeah, Winnipeg, I could see him being a fit there. But if that's somebody you have to move to get a Necas, I would be okay with it, because I like Necas a lot more than I like Domi.
Right.
But I do fear what that extension number is, because I do feel he's going to look for north of 8 mil.
Oh, I 100% he is. I mean, but he is also a proven 30-goal scorer, 70-point guy.
Yeah. Also, 2025, 57 signings, $289.9 million as of right now, which now overtook the 2020 free agency period with 73 signings of $261 million.
Okay. Yes, nothing more really in terms of free agency right now. In terms of signings, that being said, Mr. Parrish, I think it's time, because we don't know what else is going to happen. We can come back at a later date and
San Jose Sharks are signing John Klingberg and Philip Kurashev. Alex Leon to Buffalo. Kurashin is 1.12 million at San Jose.
Okay, I like that Kurashev signing to San Jose.
I'm very interested on the Klingberg thing because I don't understand. I think that's just for him to get a place to play, but I'm very curious to why and what that number will be. Nothing's yet. Leon in a Buffalo, I think that's just going to grab a depth player.
Yes. I am interested in the Klingberg signing with San Jose as well because they just bought out, or they just put Vlasic on waivers, their longest tenured player for the purposes of a buyout. And now you're bringing in somebody of roughly the same age.
I don't think Klingberg's the same age. Because how old is Vlasic?
Oh, I believe Vlasic is 37, 38.
John Klingberg is 32 years old.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. He just played for a while in Dallas.
Yes, he did.
Probably just thought he was older. But yeah, I'm very, very intrigued with the number for Klingberg, if that is the deal. But as of right now, it is just hearing that it's done, but nothing revealed just yet. So yeah.
So the very intriguing, and I wonder again if that's going to be sort of a mentorship role for Klingberg to a young San Jose defense.
Possible, because I mean, San Jose did re-sign Eklund to a 3-year deal earlier today. So I don't know. I really don't. I wonder if that's just should give some competitive juices to San Jose. I don't know. For Klingberg, I think he's just looking at a place to play, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's garnering 2 to 3 million, and that could be why he went there, because I don't know if he'd be getting that anywhere else.
Right. Well, we know that San Jose also had to spend, I believe it was up to 30 million to reach the cap floor.
Yeah.
So when you are looking at those types of situations, so Alex Leon signed 2 years in Buffalo for $3 million, $1.5 million per year.
Also, Nolan Foote to Florida. I'm wondering if there's a lot of two-way deals, because I know they brought in a goalie as well, but I didn't. It was Brandon Busey, but I'm wondering if they're doing some two-way deals right now.
Right.
I'm just going to pull up another source of where I find stuff out. So let's just kind of see where we're at. So kind of give you a thing that what the Avalanche did do, by the way, they signed basically 3 players to a 775 1-year deal, like 1,000 contract, and only one player, and that was Parker Kelly, to a 4-year 6.8 extension. So we're going to go Sharks here, see if there's anything there. They haven't announced anything on this place yet, so I think a lot of these signings are, I think in time we're going to get more, but as of right now, there's no numbers. But yeah, so I don't know. Klingberg, again, I think for him, you're going to San Jose if you can get a good 1-year deal at a high AAV. If that you're probably not going to get anywhere else.
Right.
But I am hold on. I am gonna just kind of put this in there. Why? Yeah, as of right now, there's nothing there, but even the NHL Network is reporting that he signed a 1-year contract with the Sharks. Still no money being out.
Joel Armia has signed with the Los Angeles Kings on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, that was done earlier today, actually. I think before we went live. But yeah, until it comes out, I'm very intrigued over the Klingberg thing, just because I'm curious to what he signed for, but might have to wait a little bit on that one.
Yes. David Rittich has signed a 1-year deal with the Islanders, which again, very interesting there.
And you wonder, with all these goaltending moves with the Islanders, does that make an Ilya Sorokin available for a trade?
Well, we've heard that his name being bantered about as a possible trade chip to Edmonton. But I'm wondering if Semyon Varlamov is willing to come into a market like this, not necessarily on a prove-it deal, but as that veteran goalie who has been to the playoffs, been to the mountaintop, to do that.
A guy who or a team that I'm looking at that could also have any sort of goalie movement. We did touch on Jake Allen re-signing with the New Jersey Devils. If the New Jersey Devils are not going to make any moves this year, maybe if they're not playoff bound, 1 year left of Jacob Markstrom. Is that a name that you think could be traded? Again, 1 year left for Jacob Markstrom on his contract. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets moved.
I wouldn't either, especially if it's going to be one of those, yes, we're going to eat half his salary, because he got that gross overpayment from Calgary before getting moved. But he has never, for me, he's never really lived up to that contract. And I've got to wonder, again, like we've seen Vancouver, you're talking about Arthur Shelovs, because they've got Lankinen and Demko for the next 5 years each.
Well, Demko signed for a 3-year deal.
Okay. Would a Demko for Markstrom trade in the long run make sense for New Jersey if a team is calling about Demko to shore up their goaltending, much like you've discussed for the Oilers? Now you've got him at a 3-year at a reasonable cap hit, and then you can stick with a Skinner as your backup. Or, again, would you be interested in getting a Markstrom for the remainder of the season come the deadline?
I don't hate the idea. I was the guy that wanted Markstrom over Jack Campbell. And I think him signing in Calgary was a mistake, and it turned that way. We have to remember that he is finishing a contract that he had signed with Calgary, not with New Jersey.
Right.
So it'll be very... I don't think Markstrom was doing that bad in Calgary. I think it was just the situation wasn't the best for him. I don't think the team was going in the same direction as he was hoping the team would be. And then we go to New Jersey, and New Jersey just wasn't, Also, then them losing Hughes last year was definitely a big blow. They did what they could, but you'd have to wonder if... Again, I would just wonder if this is a case of, could this be a situation of moving one goalie out and one in? And we talk about Sorokin being moved. Would you move Sorokin for Markstrom?
No. I think Sorokin has a little more upside to him, though I don't think I think he's better in a tandem as opposed to being a number one. Markstrom is that number one that wants the crease. He's very much like a John Gibson.
Yeah, and then you would have Sorokin and Jake Allen being your tandem in New Jersey. You would move Markstrom into the island where he would be that number one goalie. I don't know if fit-wise it would be the worst thing, but I don't think Islanders have a true number one right now.
No, I think I'm going to go age-wise here, because if you're going to give up a Simeon Varlamov, do you want to bring back in Jakob Markstrom? And I don't think you do. I think if you want to get younger, as we've seen with them, I mean, moving out Dobson, which to get Matthew Schaefer, and you're trying to get younger, I don't think you want to bring in a Markstrom and put him in a position of failure.
No, but Markstrom would have a 1-year deal left, right? It is just for 1 year, and then I think that gives you a little sense of competitor. I do think Markstrom is more of a competitor than what you have. I think he is not at a position in his age where I think it's damaged goods, whereas I would say Varlamov is probably closer to falling down or falling off than Markstrom is. So I could see Varlamov just flat out being the backup to Markstrom.
Nico Sturm has signed with Minnesota.
Okay, so Minnesota, welcome to the party.
2 years, $4 million.
Now, is it just $2 million each year?
$2 million per year.
Yeah, 2-2. I just got that as well. Also, Justin Danforth, the Buffalo, 2 years, $1.8 million AAV. Also, the Condrey Miller deal hasn't gone through yet. The extension with the Hurricanes is what's keeping it up.
Okay.
So it will be a sign and trade, and I think that is what it's dependent on. Their trade is dependent on.
Right. And no word yet on what is potentially going back to the Rangers then in that deal.
I could assume it's pick prospect. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's very much. But yeah, I'm very intrigued on the Perbix deal. I'm not surprised, though, because we do know that this could be a weird year with Nashville, as we don't know if Roman Josi is going to be available at all. He is in kind of a similar situation like Pietrangelo, but there's less.
From what I have heard about Roman Josi, he has an illness called POTS, and I can't quite remember what that stands for. He has said he is undergoing therapy and treatment for it and should be good to go for the season, and it will be manageable with meds.
Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's a nervous system disorder that causes abnormal increase in the heart rate while standing. So definitely, you'd have to think, though, if it's something with the heart, you wonder if his minutes are going to come down, and this is why Nashville's grabbing a younger defenseman to kind of help pick up those minutes, as that's Perbix looking to get more minutes.
The other thing that I worry about in this type of a situation is we got to go back, 20 years when Chris Pronger took that slap shot off the chest.
Yeah.
And had the heart attack, or a Jay Bowmeister having a heart attack on the bench for St. Louis. And yes, like, the concern for the player is there, and that is something now I think you really have to watch for, because you don't want to see something like that happen on the ice whether during practice, during a game, whatever the situation may be.
Yeah, and as of right now, there's nothing official being reported about Klingberg and the Sharks. It's just reported that it's close, but nothing yet.
See, I haven't seen anything coming up on TSN either. So
not to say that it won't happen, just hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I'll definitely be intrigued. But where are you standing? Are you kind of at the point where we've covered everything, or is there anything else you would like to talk about?
no, I believe we have covered everything. We can always come back at a later date and finish whatever else has happened. We know we've still got the rest of the summer to go before training camp. There's still PTOs, training camp, and then the regular season to come into play.
Yeah, we definitely have the rest of Canada Day to enjoy, and we definitely want to wish all the Canadians a happy Canada Day as Canada turns 158 years old.
Yes, and you know what? I know you're not going to be here for it, but this coming weekend, a good friend of ours, the Bulkster, is coming into Canada from the state of Indiana. I know you've met him, so we're looking forward to meeting him here. So with July 4th coming, let's wish our American viewers and friends a happy Independence Day as well.
Yes, and we will be doing the Friday SmackDown Security Detail on Independence Day as well. So I don't think you'll be available for that, but I will be in full. I'll be in entirety, no run-in, so that'll be nice. So yeah. But we'll be back there. But we'll be back later tonight with Turnbuckle Talk, where we're going to talk a lot about the Canadian wrestling and share some of our stories about that as well. So, yeah, make sure you check that out. That is at 8:05 Eastern Time. I
was going to say, why don't we show the people everywhere else they can see us here at the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m., followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursday we got total non-stop action with Brace for Impact at 8 p.m. Friday we game again with Unleashed, the Jessica Wilde story at 7 p.m. Following the game, join us for the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. followed by the Boar's Nest at 8 p.m. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day.
And with that being said, Mr. Parrish, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
All right, I can do that real quick, but I also want to just put out there, Pontus Holmberg is signing in Tampa Bay, and we have Lars Eller at a 1.25 one-year deal, staying with the Ottawa Senators. But if you want to find me, you can check me out on my link tree at Chris Parrish. If you want to catch me at the sponsor of the Chris Parrish podcast, that you can find every Sunday at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, that would be Barricade YEG, located 105 44 82nd Ave. In Edmonton, Alberta. You can help support them, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Instagram, or on X. And if you want to see me again visually, tune in to Turnbuckle Talk tonight on the Turnbuckle Studio platforms at 8:05 Eastern Time.
Yes. Now, I saw that you had this up, and I clicked over it, and I apologize for that. So why don't you tell everybody about turnbucklestudios.org?
Yeah, no, if you want more information about the Turnbuckle Studio, Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, please check out turnbucklestudios.org. .org. You can get all the live episodic shows on there. You can check the latest and all that out. If you want to get a chance to meet everyone who's a part of the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, you can do so, as there is a Meet the Team page as well. But if you want to get more inquired about what they do, what you can, if you want to join, if you want to work with, there is that inquiry page. You can email Turnbuckle Studios as well. Just more information about what is done and what you can expect out of the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program.
And I want to thank you for all of the hard work you've put into helping get this show launched. That was greatly appreciated, designing the overlay, the theme music for us. So thank you so much for everything you've put in. It means the world to me. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for me, you can find me on my Linktree, linktr.ee/OMD show. And as Mr. Parrish alluded to, we'll be right back here at 8:05 p.m. Eastern with Turnbuckle Talk alongside Carl Carafel and Chris Best. Hopefully he's feeling a little bit better. So from all of us here at the Free Agent Breakdown and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, to those of you out there wherever you are, good night, good luck, we out.
Hello out there, OMD is on the air. It's Free Agent Breakdown tonight. Players sign their deal, to their fans appeal, but did the team really get it right? OMD winds up strong, whether it's right or wrong, to say what all went down. So grip your stick real tight, or prepare to fight. It's the Free Agent Breakdown.